Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all doing? Yes, we are a few minutes late, but that's because Moi, was talking. So I take full responsibility. But welcome, everyone. This is Wednesday, middle of the week, hump day, they would say. I guess it could be the beginning of the week. I don't know. But welcome. Thank you for being a part of this. I speak favor over us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Man, if you confess it, it becomes reality. And then, hey, you got that balance. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate you here. Thank you, all the moderators. You keep the chat just so groovy. So, hey, this is Wednesday, and this is Demonology 101 with my distinguished panel. I'll start with the ladies first. Sarah, who is with JD, Nina, who is with Nina, and Ruric, good to see you again, my friend, and JD, good to see you. So welcome, everyone. Yeah. Well, don't speak at once. I mean, it's all right. in radio, we call that the dead zone. You know, it's like, no.
Thank you.
And for some reason, I got this thing of Robin Williams, you know, and Good Morning Vietnam. You know, anyway, so that was my generation. That's all I got to say. So, JD and Sarah, we missed you last week. I trust you all are doing well, and good to see you.
Great. Yeah, things were just too crazy last week to be here, so I'm sorry about that.
No.
But everything's good now.
What was it the movie says? To be in love, you never have to say I'm sorry. What movie was that? Someone will remember it. But it's so good to see you. So the week's been good. I see the kitty cat behind you.
Yep, he's chilling. That's Lover Boy.
Lover Boy.
Yeah.
Great band, by the way.
He's wearing his little pirate outfit today.
Didn't they sing the song, Why Don't You Turn Me Loose? Turn me. That's Lover Boy, right?
Oh, is it really? Okay.
Yeah. Yep, it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really
the jukebox is always open, you know.
Yeah, I like that funky groove.
I tell you, I do. So, Nina, how have you been, my dear?
Good. Yeah, really good.
Good. Anything interesting happening?
Yeah, actually, it did, but I'm not going to talk about that here. But
it
was. We just had Perkins night, so that the veil's been a little thinner, and I know you've had an experience.
Yeah,
I've had some experiences. It's been a good little. It's been a good week. So yeah.
The veil is, you know, in some areas is much thinner than it is in others. Yeah. Mm-hmm. At least that's where it is in my reality.
Yeah. Different people.
Exactly. Well, Carrie, what's that?
Sorry. I was saying it seems to be, to me, talking about like the veil being thinner in other areas or in some areas rather than others. And we live not even, I would say, like 3 blocks away from where the Battle of the Crater took place. And that huge crater is in the ground. I don't know if you're familiar with that battle, but that's where the Union dug like I don't know, maybe like 400
Civil War era.
The Civil War, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And they dug a tunnel, and then they packed it with dynamite underneath the Confederate line, and then they had a wick and they just blew everybody up, and like 2,500 people died instantly. And then there was a huge battle that ensued, and I can walk to it from my house. And people, I've had several people knock on our door and want to pay us so they can relic hunt in our yard and things. And people have given me things they have found. But, so like we live in an area where there's been a lot that's happened here. During the Civil War, the people that lived in Petersburg were starved for about, 3 to 6 months, I think, at least. Wow. In the Revolutionary War, there were executions here. I'm only like 60 miles from Yorktown. We are really like enshrouded in this area with a lot of the conflict that has taken place, and I think that definitely thins the veil and makes it a little bit easier to communicate. If you're a medium or a spiritual person, I think if you're in an area like this or like an area like New Orleans, for example, you're going to have a lot of interaction. You know, it's going to be it's like a whole different world kind of.
That's some heavy residual energy that,
Yeah.
you know, when death comes in and the soul is, you know, literally ejected out of the body, most of those people end up in ghost land, you
Right.
know, and it's not a pleasant place. But and wow, that is intense. I'm telling you, I'm just sitting here just trying to go, and you could, that energy would almost have to be palatable.
Yeah, and you can feel
It
it
is.
sometimes.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like especially, you know, it's like so. I know we talked about this before, but you know, I maybe we have on this series, maybe we haven't, but you know, I'm someone that's been diagnosed with mental illness with like bipolar depression, and I have a lot of ups and downs, but I really feel like it's more along the lines of a spiritual imbuement or condition, so to speak, you know, and that it's something that I need to learn to deal with, but it goes part and parcel with my ability to communicate with the other side.
I think,
And I think that is like a lot of the case for most people.
yeah, most practitioners, I think, have had some sort of mental illness at some point.
You know, it's interesting that you talk about that, because in the science of psychology, right, it's all theory. And it's interesting because I'll have to look and see if there's been any studies on this, because if you take empaths, intuitives, and you can test for that. So when we have what we call outside the norm of what would say one mental state to another, I wonder if there is a connector, a common denominator within this framework of those who are highly empathic and highly intuitive.
It seems to be.
Yeah, I think
You
so.
would be influenced by energy, other psychosis, other psychologists of the people you interact with.
And I think it makes it harder for, you know, like areas like this, you know, someone like me, it's difficult for me to live in this environment.
Yeah,
You know, it really
Yeah.
is. I feel it
Yeah.
all the time. And I think too that, you know, that could be the reason why a lot of people that live in this area do a lot of drugs and try to do a lot of things to escape the reality and to escape the energy that is this area. I mean, there's beautiful parts of it, of course, and I love it, but it does have this very oppressive, very dense energy about it too, that, you know, sometimes is really, really tough to handle.
Maybe it's time to move, eh?
Yeah, well, I thought about it, but I
Maybe.
love it though. Yeah, I love it, and we have, you know, we're rooted here pretty well. So you know, but that just makes it traveling that much more fun, and we do like enjoy the travel, and so we get a chance to get away enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ruric, how you doing up there?
Yeah, oh, I'm just
I'm looking at I look at us and I have the frame of Hollywood Squares. So I'm looking up there.
Yeah.
So how's it going, my friend?
good. It's a fascinating conversation here. Like, yeah, like as JD was talking about, like you can really feel that. But when you're very sensitive to energy, you'll find that certain locations really like stand out to you and do feel oppressive. Like if you're like in a city, you know, sometimes it just gets so overwhelming and so much that you can't wait to get out of there. So I know that is
I get that feeling when I used to go to Las Vegas, you know.
Yeah.
You, as an empath, it begins to drain you, you know, and that's the thing that I dislike, because you have to fight against it. Like, yeah.
I mean, and you know, Sarah and I are even getting into the mode here, and I think a lot of practitioners fall into this too, and I'm sure a lot of your viewers that, you know, fall in and may be experiencing this. The daytime is really beginning to drain me, and I feel so
More
alive at
energetic
night,
me too.
and I can think clearer at night, and I have more motivation at night, and you know, like I kind of really feel like, for me anyways, like I need to be awake at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, like that's when everything is happening. And that there's definitely something to it, if I'm not going to stay up all night and sleep all day, I definitely want to try my best to like start my day at like 2 a.m. or something and take advantage of that time. But also too, it's just like, I don't know what it is. The daytime, just maybe I am actually becoming a vampire.
You can't get a night burn.
Yeah, right.
As
I
we
can get a
said,
sunburn, but I can't get a night burn.
Yeah,
I think there's
yeah.
I definitely think there's something to that, what JD was saying. Like it's like wherever you're at, that's kind of where that portion of the world is asleep, so it's like it's less interference, everyone chatting and thinking and all this other stuff. Like, I mean, it's like the world quiets down, at least in your proximity.
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
And so it feels like you have more mental clarity and whatnot. So I definitely think there's something to that, like JD
I
was
think there's a lot to that. And also, we're opposite of the sun. So, you get that brief interlude where you don't have that influence of the radiated light, quote unquote, which is nothing more than, radiation.
And I think too,
Yeah.
when you're highly empathic, like
When
you
everyone's
are
sleeping.
Yeah. Like Ruric
You got
saying, like
feeling.
you're like there's so much chaos with everyone's thoughts and intentions and interactions and energy, and doing all of this is happening, and business, lots of businesses happening, and it's just so much going on, and it can be, it can cause anxiety, just give me anxiety out of nowhere for no reason.
Yeah.
Just the energy of the busyness of the day.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Even if I'm taking care of the things I need to take care of, like all of the energy of everyone else and what they're doing is just like, like I just, let me close that down. And I would rather come out at night and do my thing when I'm not feeling all of that. It's like, it's oppressive almost for me.
Me too.
Well, science would back you up on this one too, because there are those who are more predisposed to night rhythms than those who exist in the day.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it's like today. So I first wrote everybody that, I was on my way to get new tires for my wife's car. And it's along Interstate 70. And long story short, myself and another car, as we were pulling up, there was a dead body on the side of the interstate. And they don't know what happened. The coroner will figure it out. But anyway, there it was. And you have to excuse me, there was dust everywhere. And the interstates are dirty places. That's all I got to say. Loud. And, but yeah, and I tried to sense the person's presence in what the situation. I just had this overwhelming sense of sadness. And it was one of those moments when you realize that for that individual, this life is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, the journey's over. Anyway, that just gives you a chance to go.
And I tell you, for me, like that is, it was moments like that, like near death experiences that really opened the door to this other realm for me. I've had quite a few when I was younger, but there was one in particular, and I wrote about this in the Asmodeus compendium that was put out by Become a Living God a few years ago. This was right before I started my business that I operate now, one of my businesses, and this was in 2012. And I had already been through a lot of crap. I lost a career where I was making 6 figures and wrongly accused of this crazy crime, and lost my job and was going through a lot of crazy stuff. Had a sleep paralysis experience, which I come to realize later was Azazel, who we've talked about before. But I was found myself having to commute to work 2 hours each way every day. And those 2-hour ride home, 2-hour commutes home were really tough. And I would usually be very tired and would begin to fall asleep. And I had this one situation where that happened, and I almost got into an accident. I was probably going about 60 miles an hour, and I almost ran into the back of two cars that were sitting still. And as I
Whoa.
was getting ready, like, so I woke up as I was approaching them and slammed on brakes, and my car went sideways. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm gonna hit both of these people. Like this is gonna be horrible. You know, it's all happening in slow motion, but you know how wrecks are. And as I'm coming up on both of these vehicles, my car literally went through both of them, like went straight through them. And something just grabbed my car and jerked it and set it right in between them. So like, you know, I wasn't even in a lane of traffic. I was wedged in between these two cars, didn't even touch them, but like literally went through them. And so for me, it's like, I would have probably died for sure. I probably would have killed all those people, but somehow that did not happen. I had that miraculous, like miracle experience, near death experience. And that is, after that moment is like when all of the psychic clairs begin to open up, and like this whole world of spirits like begin to be revealed to me. And it's like, it's crazy, you know, because like you can look at it in several different ways. Like in all of these near-death experiences, like I do kind of feel like in a way that like maybe I did die and now I'm on another timeline altogether, or I did not die and I'm still here.
2012, is this right?
Yeah, it was in 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like right after that happened, I had this like crazy motivation. I figured out how to put a company together from nothing that I still operate today, that I don't know how I did it. I don't know how it happened. It was just divine guidance, you know, like I got in sync with something in that moment that has been carrying me ever since, you know.
So what made you go in the direction that it was Ozel and not how some people would say, well, JD, you know, that was Jesus.
Yeah. So as all that stuff was happening to me, and I had spirits coming to my bed every single night too, mind you, like I was experiencing like physical, tangible, feeling like a person was climbing into bed with me every night. And I was at the moment, this time I was scared and horrified and terrified. I did not like this. And I was a Catholic at the time, and I was going to church and going to the deacon and trying to talk to the priest, talking to my deacon, because he kind of is like at the church there, he handles all of that kind of business. He's like the man to go to. He's the one that married me and my ex-wife, and he really conducts most of the masses and all that kind of stuff. So I went to talk to him, and they weren't helpful. And the only thing that I could do was like to try to research this on my own and figure out.
May I ask what was the church's response?
They thought that there must be some kind of chemicals in my warehouse at my business that was causing me to hallucinate. That was really their biggest thing. And then they wanted me to go to the doctor also.
And pigs fly across every day.
They would not take it seriously at all. If they knew who it was today, they would probably be like, holy shit. You know. But
I have those that do know, and they go, what the hell happened?
So how do I know? I know from doing the research, and as I would delve in further, like researching online, all these different articles, reading, you know, excerpts from books here and there. I'm not a big reader, and I have not read many books. I hate to say it. You know, so most of my knowledge, occult knowledge, witchcraft knowledge, it all just comes straight from the spirits. But basically everything that I was being communicated to, and the methods that they were using, all of that I was verifying other people's experiences with these particular entities. So I just started to kind of like connect the dots everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could we just address, you know, I had Jenny on yesterday, and I'd like to get all of y'all's perspective on this. And as you know, she was, you know, physically attacked, you know, didn't provoke, it was unprovoked, and caused her serious harm. And I sensed, and if you watch the show, was that this was spiritual. This was a spiritual attack that manifest within the human form. The vassal was there. It was basically whatever moved in did what it was going to do, and then I believe as well moved out. So my question is to y'all is, number one, JD, because you mentioned you had spirits coming to you every night. So some would say that that was an assault. I mean, if you have something coming next to you that you didn't directly invite, then that is an intrusion. And were you ever physically attacked by?
I was scratched, like bitten. I had a bite mark on my forearm. I woke up from this and I was asleep in the house by myself all night. So there's no one that could have done this. My ex-wife was saying that she thought that I got too close to a wall outlet in my sleep and burned myself. It looked like a bite mark. And so it water blistered up like a burn. And I had pictures of it. I had pictures.
Wow.
I've had like stigmatas, like words carved into me. I had the word purge carved into my chest once. But this bite, it took 9 months to heal before it finally went away. And it would begin to heal. And then all of a sudden I'd wake up next day and it was right back where it started from like day one, all over again. And that happened, like I say, it took 9 months for it to finally heal. And, I was looking at it like their attacks as well. But the conclusion that I've come to anyhow with this is that these things happen to people that are witches, that have denied their power, that have denied their actual spiritual path, and they may not even know that they are. But like, I think that the spirits, they will use any method to get your attention that they can, and when they're finally not able to get your attention in any other way, they're going to use fear, because fear will get your attention. It can be misunderstood, and I think probably in her case it's misunderstood. It's really just a calling to her to wake up to who she is and to get on the right track. That's my
Interesting.
Let me get some coffee. I'm sorry.
Sure. No. Nina.
Yeah, I gotta add on to what he just said there. I just finished, I did some episodes of my personal experiences, and I do talk about that as well, because I was spiritually attacked for my first 42 years of my life, almost nightly.
Wow.
So until I actually started researching and figuring out, okay, and then it stopped. So it was definitely something they're trying to get.
When you say
attention.
attack, what are you referencing? Was it intimately attacked?
So like sleep paralysis, in that kind of state, constantly going for your solar plexus, trying to get into your solar plexus. From the day I was born, so I said I was never able to sleep on my back, because as soon as I went on my back, it would happen. Sometimes I wouldn't even be asleep yet. I hadn't even laid down sometimes, and it would start. So, there's definitely something to that, that they're trying to get your attention. But, when you're, young, you're married, you got kids, just too busy to kind of deal with that kind of stuff. Right. So, but it did, once I started researching and figuring out what's going on, it went away. I haven't had it since. I can sleep on my back like no problems now, So I did do some videos. So if anybody's interested in knowing more about that, go and check out my playlists, my personal experiences. Yeah.
Cool. Ruric, what say you?
Well, I didn't see the show that you did prior with the lady.
Yeah, a little background on it. She was basically picked up her son at school because where she had parked, apparently this woman, began to physically attack her. I mean, literally ripped her hair right out of her scalp, had a concussion, and the rage is what was so intense. When humans get into these fits of rages, there's a spiritual connection to it. At least that has been my training and how I see this. And
it's like an animalistic connection.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a blind rage, you hear it said. So, when a spirit attacks a human being, that's intense.
Yeah, there happens quite often. And there are many facets for that. I mean, what JD was talking about, and Nina as well, you know, that there are spirits that will do stuff to get your attention.
Are they violating a law or a rule?
There is no law, or I mean, it's no holds barred. So you have.
So isn't that odd? Because most people would perceive that there's a, you know, like here, cause and effect,
Right.
you know, but
Well,
it would make sense.
There
Well,
are.
I mean, there's two ways of looking at this, right? Yes, there could be somebody that sent a spirit to hurt her and use that person to do that. That is possible.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, the odds of that, I mean, you know, she's going to have to start looking at her enemies. Like, who has she pissed off lately? Is there somebody that could have done that to her, right? Or look at, like, the only reason a woman usually gets violent like that is either you're messing with her man or you're messing with her children. So, and it could be as innocent as her talking to this woman's husband at the post office, and somebody saw it and said something. Next thing you know, she's coming for it. Like, it could.
What if she's not married?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, that's where I would start looking first, is to see, okay, you know, who is her husband? Did you have any interactions with him at all? Could there be any reason why this woman would be jealous of her, or for some other reason, maybe too? Maybe there's some other reason for jealousy. You know what I mean? And this parking thing was just the excuse for her to do this. That's where I would look first.
And
Or,
I was,
you know, or bigger enemies, like I said. But yeah, I don't know.
and I would say too, you know, this is another possibility as well. And this is kind of a crazy far-fetched one in a way, but it is true. And I've seen this happen a lot, actually, you know, that these spirits will use people as their, you know, I hate to use the word pawns, but use them as their pawns to carry out their objectives. And they can, you know, possess people or partially possess them and influence them. You know, this, if I don't know, I hate to say, I don't know why I'm saying Azazel, but whoever this spirit was that is trying to get her attention could have certainly caused that whole scene in order to make this connection with that lady, you know, cause the energetic exchange that happened that was enough to open up and crack her psychic filter enough. So now she can begin to interact and perceive the energy and the interactions of this spirit. That's a far-fetched one, but that could be.
You know what I find here is that her child, Theodore, beautiful child, was a victim of this. And so for me, I know, Jenny, there wouldn't, you know, the thing about husband or whatever. No, and when Theodore he was as terrorized as much as Jenny was being physically. Mm-hmm. And then to sick the dogs on her. I mean, come on, that I don't think, you know, it to
There's
me.
a lot of rage there. Yeah, for
a lot of rage.
Thing. It doesn't seem. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I would investigate for her, like to go back and investigate.
Well, the police said that it was and they did arrest her and charge her, but right. You know, see, that's such violence. Go ahead, Ruric. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was saying you guys had awesome points. I will say that spirits attacking people is a very common thing. But you have to realize what kind of spirits those are, you know. No demon is waiting in grandma's closet to, you know, come jump you. Now, Nina did bring up a good point, like someone could have cursed her and sent some other entities that way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's a possibility.
Possibility.
There are low-level entities that prey on people because, one, you're just a giant battery of energy source. Why not? Like I said, there's no holds barred. You have that's why it's so paramount for you to learn protection.
That's my next point. So what can people do? You know,
people can learn to my personal opinion would be learn to manipulate energy, learn, like, you know, a practice like Qigong, learn to shield, because there are a lot of nasty, what I would call parasitic entities that latch onto people, and they also will influence you. They can influence you, like JD was talking about, that fear. That's a big, you know, that's That's good lunch.
See,
right
and Jenny
there.
is an
You're-
alchemist. She is an alchemist of a high level. So, you know, and very, I mean, she's powerful. You would call it a witch. I mean, she
Oh, yeah.
is very powerful. To me, it again, your point is that it's that the rules in the ethereal realm is not anything like what we perceive here. I was meditating, and I had, for the briefest instance, I think people are going to be really surprised what is actually on the other side. I think it's going to be much more entertaining than people have been led on to believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, there are entities out there that just feed off people because they can. I mean, even ghosts, like most hauntings.
I've had a number of women write that they have been attacked sexually.
Yes, absolutely.
From an unseen realm.
Yes. And most people attribute anything negative as, you know, that was a demon. What people don't realize is majority of hauntings or any kind of paranormal activity usually is a result of a ghost. Now, ghosts can actually morph into other things, but
Interesting.
They will feed off of you. I mean,
Is a ghost human?
Yeah, it's a human spirit, but it can also morph into things. Like if you think about it, we're all energy, right? So it's pretty much how you convert and transmute that energy. But, yeah, I've known. There's a story of this one gentleman who went to a funeral of his grandfather. His grandfather passed away. Not many people cared about him in the family, but you know, they weren't enemies or anything. But the grandfather, you know, stuck around and would just terrorize the family, just terrorize them. And he was just feeding off.
Pissed off, was he?
Yeah. And it's, you know, they finally found out later that it was their grandfather, but it was, you know, he didn't give two shits. He didn't like the family, and he was just siphoning all that energy. So it's like people can be nasty. People can be nasty. Yeah. Just because you're, you know, just because you die doesn't make you all like amazing. You know, if you were an asshole in life, guess what? You're probably going to be a bigger asshole.
You're going to be an asshole there.
Yeah.
There was a bumper sticker out back in the 70s that says, Jesus loves you because everyone else thinks you're an asshole. You know, and I think it could be just that way. I mean, there's this people, you know, particularly if you see them continue to age in life, that and I've seen it. There are 90-year-olds that are just nasty people. Yeah. And I asked myself and my wife, I said, what happened to them? Were they always assholes like this? I mean, what? And I'm thinking, you know, you're about to cross over. I mean, you don't have another 10,000 days. And so you're going to go over with that kind of attitude? I don't know. I think you're going to get your ass kicked. It's just me. It could be totally wrong, but I don't think so. Well, so let's get back into the point of, so in my research, if you make connection, which I do, but I have been seeking out Lucifer for, I just don't know how. I mean, this goes back into my first experience was oh man, bring back some memories. 17 years old, and I lived in this apartment complex, and this couple, it was weird, introduced me to the Satanic Bible. And that was my first introduction to this other thought. And through the years, it seems to have always resurfaced. So for me, you know, if Jesus is male, then Lucifer has to be female. I mean, we live in duality here, right? So there has to be opposites. Yay, nay?
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
Lucifer is kind of like both. It can be both.
Well, I get it, but I think it, you know, so could a savior in the same way could be feminine. If you read the Gnostic Gospels, you know, apparently what Mary Magdalene was all about.
I personally view Jesus and Lucifer to be completely separate.
Oh yeah, I don't. Well, there has to, I guess what I'm trying to bring out is the antithesis. There has to be an antithesis for the existence in this realm. Now, I don't know what happens in the other realm, but we live in a duality realm. Everything here is in duality. Positive, negative, male, female is my point. It would appear
with Lucifer being correlated and tied to Venus, which is a very feminine energy as well. I do see the femininity there in the energy.
Yeah, I mean, the Mormons believe they're brothers. So does the Catholic Church. They make recognition to Lucifer. So I don't know. I don't trust what their story is. And I have found it to be where I'm in life that they're hiding something, and they've been hiding something for millennia.
Yes.
I
for
believe
sure.
it.
I mean,
That's all coming out too now. So that's going to
well,
be.
you think about Mary, Mother of God. Is she the female representation of salvation of Christ?
Wow. Yes. When people pray to Mary Magdalene, they're actually praying to a female aspect of Jehovah.
Exactly. I mean, so we were taught, and the Apocrypha teaches that, the serpent, which was actually a race of beings that were bipedal, who walked upright with humans, that apparently this interaction was one of a sexual nature that took into the divinity of the first female. But I often wonder, is that really the case? Because, Lilith would have been that first female, right? So I don't know. I often sometimes think is, through the years, and this is just me speculating, is that you could see Lilith as Lucifer, because Jerome was a prick, and he's the one who what I've studied and come to believe is that Jerome perverted the image of what Lucifer was to be. I mean, he was the one who actually first put it into the book of Isaiah. So I've often suspect that why wouldn't it have been the divine feminine? And why wouldn't they invert the perception that it is falsarious Lucifer that would be more into the male pantheon? That's how it is. That's how it's defined by the church.
Yeah. So that would make sense that it would be a female energy, because they would certainly want you to be focusing on the male energy like they are, in their religion, and
thank you, sir. That's my point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is just my heart speaking,
Mm-hmm.
That is how I perceive her to be, because there is no other representation in the pantheon of divine ones, angelics, etc. Lucifer can't be male. Has to be portrayed as the divine feminine of its origin. Otherwise, you wouldn't need a male dude, hands of wood. Just me. JD, you're in thought. What's
No, you were coming through all broken up there for a
It's
second.
all broken up.
Yeah, I was like,
Sorry.
Well, the internet has been really functified over here. So yeah.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Did you get the gist of what I was saying?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, that's just perception. I think that I think the Luciferians and the Satanists they're on the track, but I think in some of the theology, their ideology is that, there's still no account, or for me, in representation of that divine feminine. It's always, the masculinity, the monotheistic patriarchal point of view.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's where I really, like we talked about before, where I think a lot of the mainstream religions of today have totally missed the mark in removing the divine feminine spiritual archetypal essence from their spirituality, and like that's just going to make everything wonky and unbalanced down here.
Yeah, and again, from of those who are open-minded and open-spirit enough to discuss on this, it's even lacking within the literature of whether you're reading the Satanic Bible, you're reading the Luciferian Bible, whatever. There seems to be this lack of this continuation of this maleness.
And I think we're going to see a change there with that. The tide is already turning, and like with Lilith's energy returning and being more prevalent here in this reality now, to me now more than ever now, more than, not as much so as when, the days of Babylon, like all of that energy is coming back, and we're going to see more female representation in our spirituality. At least I am, and I hope that the world will embrace that, collectively, as some of these mainstream religions begin to fall away. I mean, that's what I would like to see. It's going to take a long time for that to happen, but I think we're moving in that direction.
Yeah, I knew, thing over here and saying, come on over here and let's change the perception of what Lucifer is into more of the divine feminine. And it keeps telling me my internet is unstable. So if but anyway, Rick, what say you? I'm seeing you up there. It's like I'm going to draw you into the conversation, man.
Well, I think that, I think that there's a lot about our misrepresentation of the balance between masculinity and femininity, and that goes within the spirit realm as well. There is that balance, and that is definitely represented, both the masculine energy and feminine energy. That is all represented, even with what you would consider left-hand path with most different entities. So that's why you will see that a lot of spirits have multiple aspects to them, and they can also choose to appear however they want. Some will have, or most predominantly, show up or appear in their male aspect, but doesn't mean they also don't have a female aspect. So there is this constant balance within the spirit realm that you'll see. So it's quite fascinating. It's hard. It's very complex. So it's really hard.
It's complex.
Words.
I mean, I think about Azazel. Is Azazel male or is Azazel female? I mean, it seems to have more of a male characteristic, but I've been studying on a lot of the deities in here, and if you were to have the scale and the balance, it's to be more into the masculine side of the equation. And ever since Lilith visited me, it's been always bugging, and because see it everywhere. The complete removal. It's like the scene of Cecil B. DeMille's, the Exodus with Charleston Heston there, and the great scene coming out where Pharaoh comes and said, let the name of Moses and his image be wiped away. And, and every monument and every record, his name was erased. I think that was a metaphor for what they actually did to the feminine. Remove it completely, and then have us males walk around trying to figure out, well, what would be divine feminine to you? And because if you read it, the woman aspect of us in the history of our chronology, and even in the occult, has always been more to the side. I mean, that's where I think the power of witches come in. If the witches could ever really get the act together, on a very grand scale, I mean, I wonder what that reality would look like. Just me. I think about these things a lot, and it's what bothers me, with the Golden Dawn. It's what bothers me with the Kabbalah, and and within all the occultism that has been derived out of that gives us today of what we're discussing here, demonology, these divine ones, as the Greek, the Latin is, and that's what it means, daemon. It's the diamond on the tiara, but it's contaminated in my point of view. See, find this because I think there's this gap, and it's just me, that even within the realms of what we're talking about, the left-hand path, there is still, I think, an underrepresentation of the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
So let's ask the representation, which would be Nina on this.
I
Go
would
ahead,
definitely say
JD.
that there's more predominantly, even in in left-hand path, it's predominantly male.
Yeah.
Deities, male. There's a much more male spirits than there are female, but like Ruric was saying, a lot of them do have that dual nature, that dual aspect of themselves, but a lot of them by and large are associated with a male energy.
Nina, what say you, girl?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, and I think, because probably majority of the people on the left-hand path are probably male. So that's probably kind of one of the reasons, and even with religion back in the day, women weren't allowed to do anything. So, everything is just male. They just, they never thought of it. But, like Lucifer, when I seen him, okay, I've seen him a few times and he comes to in different ways, but the one time in particular, like he is so beautiful. Like you can't tell whether or not it's a male or female. Like it's one of those things, and it doesn't really, he's fluid. Like it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. It undulates, and it's just
yeah.
yeah. See it on yeah. It's yeah.
I think that a lot of seeing that there are a lot of male practitioners within the kind of the left-hand path and stuff like that. I really think that has a lot to do with the taboo aspect of it. It's like something dark and sinister to some people. And so the reason some people come into this path, or try to anyways, they come in it for different reasons than they should. And they seek out to work with all these big names that they hear about that are common or whatever. But there's work to be done and growth to be had on this path, and it would behoove you to not only work with such masculine spirits but very feminine spirits. It's about that balance, and that's how you grow and how you develop. People don't really understand the depth and the complexity of the feminine divine. I mean, when you want to go and do healing, like really intense healing, work with a goddess.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say this. I believe the vast majority of males, deep down inside of us, and it's much like in Dune, it's a place that no man can go, no man can enter, that we fear the divine feminine.
Yeah,
because we don't know, we've lost the knowledge, we've lost the understanding of, number one, how to approach the divine feminine, what it is that the divine feminine actually is needing, wanting. We males, we try to do that, and we try to overcompensate many times in the pantheon of what we bring into this realm. And I think that deep down, it's this primordial fear that we have. Just me, it's just a thought, I've got volumes of things I've written over there, but it's just the thing. And I look the three of us, and I would say that if the combined knowledge here, and then you have Nina there, and let's say that now that the knowledge is now equally shared, it can never be equally shared, because the three of us will always have that place, that place of the uncertainty of exactly how is the divine feminine expressed. And this is why I love the subject, because I think that the divine ones, the infernal beings, that this is something that I think is a lost knowledge to our kind. And I think if we ever acquire it again, we will begin to ascend to that place where I believe we will eventually be.
And I really love working with these feminine spirits, and I do a lot, and have throughout most of my my along my path, or my career, if you want to call it my career, whatever you want to call it. You know, and one of the reasons I love it is because you really get to tap into like true raw feminine energy. Like, I would love to be able to meet an ancient woman from 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, prior to all this conditioning and prior to our society and what we have made women into. You know, someone that's ashamed of their sexuality, that doesn't really know how to use it or express it because it's always been so repressed. Like, I really feel like an ancient woman would be an entirely different type of being altogether. I mean, I'm sure most men were different too, but we haven't really been stripped of our power as much as a woman has.
Yeah. Agreed. Wise words.
There's definitely a lot of conditioning going on in today's society where it lends itself to more confusion. But yeah, I don't think people truly understand those two energies. You know, I don't think many really truly understand the masculine. Divine
Bingo. That isn't that true. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I mean, we are so lost in society, like I said, with all this conditioning, and like
especially nowadays.
Especially nowadays. We try to we try to assert certain role or attribute certain things to those, even though they're completely wrong. Like, you know, some people would consider the divine feminine to be more misandrist, you know, or, you know, man-hating or whatever, you know, and then quite the opposite with masculinity. And, you know, it's like people really don't have the proper understanding of what these two energies bring, and they complement each other. It's all about the balance.
It is, isn't it though? Yeah.
And it's about, it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, you need that balance. And you need to learn and understand what that truly is. Now, every spirit within the divine, it's a representation of that, and they can definitely help you learn to tap into those energies. You want to learn more about the divine feminine, work with a lot of different goddesses. You want to work on the divine masculine, work a lot with some of these gods. You know, it'll shed light and new perspective to really help you understand what it really means to exude both these energies.
You know, and to me, you know, I know a lot of people feel like this is just mythology, but if you look at, you know, Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, like, they both understood that concept, and that is the key to all of it. And that is like the whole half of that mystery Christianity has removed. And so you only have like one piece of the whole puzzle. They had the whole thing. But
the Gnostics were all about mystery school, understanding the mysteries. That's what I think they've stripped, JD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've only seen one version, their version.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so in so many ways in this time, in this era, that we are actually more of the pioneer in what we really fully see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's essential to be empowered has been stripped away, and anything left over has been twisted and mutilated into something else entirely. So you miss the whole window into the reality of what you need to be working on. You know, we're all stuck in this cloud of confusion and everything else. Just to even talk about spirituality, it's so highly nuanced, and people have so many misconceptions about things, and you know, and it just adds more confusion and chaos. You know, that's like, just to talk about beings like even demons, you know, that's so taboo. It's so
This
it's
is what I love about
well-aligned.
this group. We can talk, we have there's this maturity, because I want to know more about, I think next week we begin to look, talking about the name of, each one of these deities.
Mhm.
But Nina, I keep on thinking of you when this thought hitting me. So the mitochondrial DNA is feminine, and we all enter into this realm feminine.
I was
It's
gonna
the
say, yeah, we
yeah,
start, mhm.
it's the woman who's really making the decision whether male or they continue on their path on female. And I often wonder, I carry that over into the spiritual realm, because there has to be a correlation over there as well. So is there a realm that it is female? It's its whole structure, the whole matrix. I don't know. It's a thought I keep thinking that, if we work with the male deities, these divine ones, I think it would be cool if we could bring in the co-part would be who would be the representation on the feminine side.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm excited y'all like to do this, because I don't think anyone's doing this. I look out there on what's on YouTube and out there, I don't see this type of contrast. That if we're going to talk about Asmodeus, is that did I pronounce that right?
Asmodeus?
Asmodeus, thank you. That's a cool name, by the way. That's just one that just kind of rolls off your tongue. I feel like doing a Tom Jones song, Asmodeus. But anyway, and that's actually, I know how you actually do invoke them, isn't it? I mean, you start singing to them. But yeah, to actually bring in the counterpart to that, who would be the divine feminine, because I'd like to work with both those energies.
Mhm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
if they exist there, they can coexist in here. At least that's my idea.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't already try to show up for you and try to get your attention,
Well, they're beautiful. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
I don't fear them. I mean, and this is what I like. We have a lot of people who come from Christianity here that listen to us, and they write me, and they love this show. I just had someone write today saying these Wednesday shows have changed, has opened up for them a whole new way of looking at things.
Mm.
Yay.
Awesome.
That's what it's
Yeah,
all
I mean, that's what it's all about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're hitting the target, and I think we are really close to the bullseye. I mean, and I'd like to continue with that, because it's a discussion that many times when people say right hand path, left hand path, they're both paths. And
Yeah.
guess what? They're both as magical as one or the other. I mean, I look at my whole 50 years of Christianity was a magical experience. What's that?
One is more organized. So the right hand path is kind of like religion. They're organized. They have churches. They, and that's kind of where I don't want to belong to any church. I don't want to have any organized. And then when you start looking into the gardeners and all these people, they all have drama and all kinds of, yeah. So we just don't want to belong to any kind of group or any, and that's what the left-hand path is. You're on your own. That's it. There's no more evil or anything like that. It's just, we're just choose to kind of work on our own rather than being organized in some kind of form. So that's all it is. There's no other,
I open invite. I always like, it's like, let's have a beer, or,
And I have to just on closing too, when I got my first channeling from Lucifer, and I did do a video on this, the major message that I got was all about balance, being in the balance. That goes deeper than just, the few things that you can think of. You go deeper than that. Everything has to be in balance. And that's just something that really stuck with me, for all these years, that, and it keeps coming up all the time.
all the time.
If we can just all just be in the balance, everything would just work out a lot better. So
I always see in my mind's eye is the teeter-totter. Where are we at on that? Don't y'all get off, It's like you get off and you're gonna send our ass junking through.
It depends on the day. It depends on the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all. Boy, that hour is good. I so am appreciative of all of you, Nina, Ruric, JD, Sarah. I know wherever you are, darling, because we're breaking ground here, and it's producing. And I just want to because you bring knowledge, you bring the personalization of experience, and that's what makes it real.
Well, we appreciate you having us on and having this come out, because this is exactly what we need. So yeah, thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you.
Practical learning and a practical. So there we go. All right. My internet keeps saying you're unstable. Well, I know that already. I don't need you to tell me that. So thank you all in the chat room, and we will see you tomorrow for sure. All right. much love, everyone. And we're out. I think.